Welcome to Talking Jets. My name's Ryan and I'll be your pilot tonight. I am joined alongside our panel. I've got Matt O'Leary, Green Bean, and Ray from DPN Sports. Boys, how you doing tonight? Green Bean, I'll kick it to you first.
I'm doing fantastic. Last night was a lot of fun. It went exactly how I hoped it would go, and I couldn't be better. I rested easy.
Matt, how you doing tonight?
I was a little nervous last night, but I'm doing a little bit better now. The tank lives on for another week and going into the bye week too. But yeah, doing pretty good, ready for my Jets therapy.
Ray, the outsider, coming into the Jets panel. How you doing tonight?
Here for the ambush. I'm good, man. We broke a 4-game losing streak. It's been a long. I was 13 the last time that, or 14 the last time that happened. So it's feels good to be back in the win column.
Solid. Ray, tell everyone where you can find you. I do have all the links to all the channels down below in the description, but Ray, rattle off a little plug for yourself.
Yeah, perfect, man. Best place to find me is actually sportscaster.com/RayRoute, RayRauth. I have a featured podcast there called the DPN Commentary Podcast. I'm also part of the Sportscaster news team, so I'm on there about 8 times a week. You can catch me there talking football and talking Patriots. Also, you can throw me a follow on Twitter at DPN_Ray.
Solid. Green Bean's having a few issues with his internet connection, and he switched panels on me. So now I gotta switch the names real quick. It's all right. It's all right. We love you, Green Bean.
Sorry.
All right. Where's the... Try to stay... Perfect. All right. Guys, we were all hoping for the tank. How it stands right now, the Jets are sitting at 0-9. The Jaguars are 1 win in the win column for them. They're sitting at 1-7. The Jets cannot tie at all with the Jaguars, because if they do, the Jets, by strength of schedule, will be picking 1 pick below the Jaguars. But let's get into a little bit about the game from last night. Let's get some of our takeaways. Matt, I'll start with you. What were some of the key takeaways you saw last night?
So my biggest thing was Joe Flacco played the best half of football that we've seen in a long time, which is scary. I was not expecting that at all. I actually took the under for both the score and Joe Flacco passing yards, which was 205. And I was like, that's a lock. They're going to throw for 160 yards just like every week. Like, come on, like this is going to be easy. Well, he pretty much beat that in the first half. It was really surprising because he, like I said earlier off the air, he turned back the clock to 2012. It felt like offense came to life. 3 touchdowns. That was weird. And wasn't expecting that in the slightest. I thought the Patriots would win by double digits despite, their struggles right now. But the Jets are just so brutally bad. I didn't think it would be close, but we got ourselves an entertaining game. And in the end, the better team won.
Green Bean, what were your thoughts on what we saw last night?
I thought of Matt O'Leary every 5 minutes last night because, remember I made that video about the potential for the Patriots they were only, a game or 2 games out of the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. And I was legitimately afraid that Bill Belichick would try to throw the season and make something out of this lost season. So when the Jets were up, I almost texted Matt a whole bunch of times, but I didn't. I restrained myself. And then at the end, again, It's tough to root for a loss, man. It is. And every time something exciting happened, I cheered. It's like I can't help that. I just know in the grand scheme, it's better. Winning games like this, it doesn't do any good. And it's about time that we suck the right way. And I'm just really hoping we can. But it was a lot of fun. Like Matt said, finally we got a little bit of actual football to watch. So that was good.
Ray, what were your thoughts from a Patriots perspective?
Honestly, exactly what happened last night was exactly what I didn't want to happen. I said the most ideal situation for the Patriots would be they win the game like 7-6, and we keep riding our defense and riding our run game, and we just patiently wait for Cam Newton to find numbers. I was actually doing the pregame for Sportscaster last night, and somebody asked me, how would you feel if this game turned into a shootout? And I said that would suck because that means our secondary got torched, and that's exactly what happened last night. Now, look, no Stephon Gilmore, but it's no excuse because J.C. Jackson is a true number one. That's been the strength of the Patriots, secondary is their two top cornerbacks are two number one. So J.C. Jackson should have easily been able to step into that number one position. If you look at the PFF rankings last year, number one and number two were Gilmore and Jackson. Now, of course, look, big players make big plays at big times. That interception on that overthrow from Flacco, I mean, he ran down that ball like a receiver. To me, he exonerated himself from the rest of that game. There's a problem with your field. I don't know what it is. It's not the first time I've seen opposing teams just slip and slide all over the place. I swear it's you guys know how to run on it and nobody else does. But for the most part, I wasn't happy with how the defense played. Look, I was cheering for a Patriots win. I'm probably one of the most optimistic. I'm not an unrealistic Patriots fan, but I'm an optimistic fan. And I keep telling people the Patriots making the playoffs, improbable, but not impossible. And it had to start with a win last night. At the end of the day, I was impressed with Cam Newton. I've been screaming since week one to get Jacoby Myers involved in the game. He had 169 yards in receiving last night. Look, the Patriots probably aren't going to make the playoffs, but I'm really excited for where we're going for 2021. And for the Jets, I think you guys are absolutely right to want to go for Trevor Lawrence. I'm an OSU guy, a big OSU guy. You don't want Justin Fields. It's what I keep telling people. We've heard these rumors, what if Belichick trades up to number 2? I'm like, no. OSU quarterbacks don't play in the NFL, and Justin Fields is going to be exactly the same. So I wasn't happy they got torched, but what I was the most happy is, I always say that the Patriots could have been 5-2 going into that game if Cam Newton can score on the 1 yard line, 1 yard line against Seattle, or doesn't just miss N'Keal Harry against Denver or fumble against Buffalo. I think we've been waiting as Patriot fans to see that sort of Tom Brady moment where, 50 seconds left in the game and you get him into a position to win. And that's what happened last night. So I was happy that Cam finally got that off his back.
Yeah, I was cheering for a loss this entire time. I'm looking at this game and I'm like, all right, if I could have every game for the Jets go exactly this way the entire season, I would enjoy the game. I would cheer. I would be happy when the relief of the loss actually comes. But the way it sort of was going, I can understand a situation. I would be upset, but I can understand a situation where the Jets win with Sam Darnold, or win using Denzel Mims, or win using LaMichael Pirine. But when you see Joe Flacco and Perriman, and maybe not so much Perriman, but when you see Joe Flacco and you see Frank Gore really being the focal points of the offense, you're like, oh, these guys aren't going to be here next year. There's no silver lining. I want to see the young guys play. And we were lucky. We actually got to see a lot of the young rookies play pretty well. Ray, what do you think about Cam? It's something that I wanted to ask you for sure. He's only on the 1 year deal. Is he coming back next year? What do you guys think you do for quarterback? I thought, just as an outsider looking on, it felt like Cam hasn't really been Cam. It feels like he's kind of a few steps behind. He had a great completion percentage and, a bunch of yards. He had 2 touchdowns, but it just doesn't feel the same. Like he was slipping. Well, I guess maybe that's our field, slipping on the field. But what do you think about the quarterback situation for the Patriots moving forward?
I've been a big proponent that I want Cam Newton to get a 3-year contract. I see a 3-year bridge before the Patriots have to address quarterback again. I'm going to make a bold statement. If Tom Brady was on this Patriots team this year, they'd probably have one win and we'd be in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. Cam Newton has kept his team alive at times with his legs where Cam Newton can't. Look, Julian Edelman's out on surgery. Julian Edelman is not playing like Julian Edelman from 2 years ago. He's playing like Edelman from 10 years from now. N'Keal Harry is a bust. I don't care what anybody says. He's a bust of a first-round pick. Our best receiver, Jacoby Myers, is an undrafted free agent last year. Every single receiver that they played the last 2 weeks for the Patriots are undrafted free agents. We don't even have a 7th-round pick. We got Isaiah Ford coming in from Miami, and he's going to be our savior, and he's a 7th-round pick from 3 years ago. The tight ends, we dress one tight end. The Patriots basically invented the 3 tight end system, and we dress one tight end because our 2 rookies had done nothing. Nick Folk is kicking the ball when our 5th-round kicker is on the practice squad because he couldn't find accuracy. Everything that could have went wrong with the Patriots offense this year went wrong. Finally, Damian Harris got off the IR, but of course, it looks like he took a pretty serious injury last night, and finally got the run game going. I want to see what Cam Newton can look like with receivers in front of him. Having the type of season he's having too, though, and I've said this to Patriot fans, isn't bad because he's not going to cost the Patriots $25-30 million next year. If he would have came out and lit it up, $70 million cap space, $30 million going to Cam Newton. Now, we're probably looking sort of Teddy Bridgewater money, which is at 18 to 20 if they want to lock him up for 3 years, maybe even less, 15. With some bonuses sprinkled in there. I think that we need to see him play with weapons before you can make a judgment. And really, he was doing great until the whole COVID thing came. Looked awful against Denver, awful against San Francisco. I'll admit it. He didn't look the same. He started the Buffalo game. He actually looked pretty good. Unfortunately, that fumble is going to be the black sort of cloud. And I mean, he went crisp last night, 11 for 11, and he wasn't running the football. I mean, I know he had those sneaks there at the end, but I think at the end of the day, he ended up with like 12 rushing yards or something like that. Like he was actually throwing the football, looking like a quarterback. So I'm a big proponent of re-signing Cam Newton for 3 years. Look, the dude's a former MVP. In 2018, he was on pace to be in another MVP season before he got hurt. He stayed healthy this season, minus COVID. So I'm just for me, it's I want to see Cam with a full season, with a full everything, because everything about this season for the Patriots has just been off, right? No Tom Brady for the first in 20 years. No training camp, brand new quarterback that comes in. Don't forget, came in July. He signed on my daughter's birthday, which was June 28th, right? And that's the only reason I know the day he signed. So he came in the end of June, no training camp, had a month to learn the system, started getting a groove, and then didn't practice for 2 weeks because he was out with COVID, and you just saw the sort of impact of that. No, I love Cam Newton. Look, I'm one of the most hated Patriot fans in the world right now because I'm just like, hey, we got $70 million in cap space. We're going to have a decent pick. People are pushing quarterback. I'm saying defensive lineman so we can actually stop the run a little bit. This team's not far off. I'm not saying we're going back to the Brady days, but we're not far off from competing in the AFC East again.
Now, you brought up the cap space, and it's something that I do want to touch on because the Jets are going to have a lot of it, and I absolutely love your left guard, and I want him on the Jets next year. What are the chances of that happening, or are the Patriots locking him up long term?
The last time Bill Belichick used a franchise tag was for our kicker, Steven Gostkowski. He doesn't use the franchise tag. He's let Devin McCourty and Dante Hightower, probably been our 2 staple defenders, explore the free agent market. Hell, he let Tom Brady explore the free agent market and let him walk away. I was absolutely floored when he used the franchise tag on Joe Thuney and then didn't trade him. I mean, we thought, okay, maybe he signs the tag and then he trades him. Maybe he trades him at the trade deadline. I think he's going to do everything he can to bring Joe Thuney has been a lifeline for the Patriots this year. I mean, we watched him play left guard, right guard, center. He played right tackle for a bit of time as our offensive line was just getting beat up with injuries, and a bunch of them were off with COVID. On that COVID list for a game, and Joe Thuney's been a superstar. He's going to be the only way you get him is if Bill Belichick looks, because he's making $15 million this year. I think he's probably a $20 million offensive lineman, and Bill Belichick doesn't. Yeah, he should be the top paid lineman in the league. He's the number 1 rated guard in every single category and any single analytical place, and Belichick doesn't look. Let me just say, as a Patriots fan, my partners over at Sportscaster who are fans of different teams tell me this all the time they say, Ray, you don't appreciate an offensive lineman because Belichick goes out and gets undrafted free agents like, David Andrews, your center, and, Michael Onwenu, who's a 6th-round pick, and these guys just come in and flourish in your system. So because I've never got to pay the $20 million for a lineman kind of thing, I'm like, an offensive lineman's a dime a dozen, and I was a left guard, so I feel I can say that, you know what I mean? But they're a dime a dozen, but apparently that's a New England thing. That's not an every team thing. So that's a little bit of my spoiled brat syndrome, I guess. But Joe Thuney's a guy I do not want to lose, and I'm hoping Belichick doesn't either.
Ooh, man, I don't like that because he's the guy that I've wanted for the last 2 off seasons. So it's nice to get a little bit of a insider's perspective. Now I can formulate a little bit different of a mock off season than what I was going to because I had Thuney coming to the Jets on a big time deal. $20 million's a lot for a guard, but I guess he's more than a guard when you kind of put all things together. Yeah. Let's touch on what other topics did I have on here. Let's talk a little bit about the rookies. We'll go both sides, the Jets and the Patriots. I'll start with you, Matt. What rookies were you impressed with last night?
Yeah, for me, it was Denzel Mims in the first half again. For some reason, they just decide in the second half that they want no part of Denzel Mims, which I really don't get, but he looked really good. Had some nice yards after the catch, which I liked. And Ashton Davis, after struggling last week, had a really nice bounce back game. I know he had the roughing the passer penalty. I thought that was borderline, but outside of that, I thought he had a really good game. And he was kind of used in a similar situation to when Jamal was a rookie, where he would bring him up to the line of scrimmage and he would kind of, get after the quarterback and make plays at the line, but struggle in coverage a little bit. That's kind of where I see Davis at right now. So I thought those two played really well. Man was his typical self. He's been good as the punter so far. And I mean, Perine's fine. I don't really think he's going to be anything more than a second running back on this team. But overall, I think it's been a really good showing from the draft class from Joe Douglas so far.
Green Bean, how you feeling about the Jets rookies?
Can I just, hopefully my internet's enough that you guys can hear me, and I really do apologize. I hate this when I'm like this, but it's nice to hear a Patriots fan talk like I just want to make reference to something. All those issues, Ray, that you're bringing up are literally the things that we deal with when it just seems like it's pouring. It's like, how can something else? We got a 5th-round kicker. He can't kick. We got an undrafted. We're bringing in Nick Folk. Like, that's what it's like for us all the time. Like, this is our experience. So it's nice for me. You know what I mean? It's nice. I've been a fan for 40-something years, and I remember when the Patriots were not the dynasty. And it's been a long time. So it's good just for perspective because, like you said, sometimes when I talk with some of the friends I have as Patriots fans, it's like talking to somebody who doesn't get it. And they just go, well, you know what? But rightfully so. It's been so good for so long. So it's nice. Welcome back.
If I could just kick in, I'm a pre-Tom Brady fan. That's what I always tell people. You know what I mean? But I started with Bledsoe, so it's not even like I really started out in a bad situation, right? It's just we didn't have this. Just so I assume it's mostly Jets fans on your and most people know this. I hate Patriots fans. Just so everybody, like, to make it clear to all your fans, and especially like Patriot fans on Twitter and everybody who's crying right now. I'm just like, if there's any fan base in the world that needs to just shut up and take what's happening this season, it's ours. Stop whining about everything.
Yeah. But so that all said, it's nice to have you back in the real world, man. Well, maybe we can talk a little bit more and have some substantive conversations. But like Matt said, I'm really impressed. Number one, it sucks that Mekhi Becton got hurt because that may have been one of his best games yet, and he's had good games. But that guy was absolutely clearing a path over there. It just seemed like the left side was going to be open for business all game, and you noticed it when he went out and Chuma Edoga came in. It was an instantaneous shift in momentum. But so him, and then Denzel Mims is really coming on, man. I really like the way when he caught the ball, he was able to get some yards after the catch, shaking defenders, getting the first down, things like that. It's nice to see. those are really the main guys for me. Ashton Davis, I think the hit was iffy. I don't think it was necessarily dirty. I think, hey man, you had a lot of time to size him up. You probably could have went a little bit lower, in my opinion, and not gotten the call because it was a wallop, and it was a good play. So I think all of our kids. It was nice to see Zuniga. It was nice to see Hall out there and just slowly phase these guys in. I can't wait till Cam Clark comes back in, but I think our rookie class is coming around, man, and I'm really happy with them.
Ray, what about you? How are the Patriots rookies looking?
All right, so listen, to be honest with you, when it comes to Patriots rookies, you can't really start talking about Patriots rookies until season 2 because Belichick will essentially redshirt almost as many of his rookies as he can and just use them sparingly. Let's put it this way. Jawan Bentley was out last night, who's our starting middle linebacker, and Anthony Jennings and Josh Uche played like 20% of the time when a practice squad linebacker took Jawan Bentley's position. And that has nothing to do with those guys not knowing the system or not being good players. That's just what Belichick does. He just redshirts a lot of rookies. The one rookie who's really stood out this year is Mike Owinu, who's I think it was either 5th or 6th round offensive lineman. He was supposed to be the 3rd string, but got bumped into the tackle position. I think right now he's the highest rated on PFF, the highest rated offensive rookie in the league for the year. He's played absolutely phenomenal. You guys torched him. The Jets torched him at one time last night. He got bullied a little bit. It was probably the first time I noticed him really get beat. He's just been so solid. So he's been really the guy that I've looked at a lot. Kyle Duggar, he's had his moments, but he's been dealing with injury. Our tight ends are a disaster. Devin Asiasi and Dalton Keene. We traded up for both of them in the 3rd round. It was supposed to be the Gronkowski-Hernandez sort of pair. Not obviously as talented as those two, but similar skill sets. They look more like, I'd rather Ben Watson and like Antonio Gates right now, like at their age, than have to deal with these two. Again, our kicker, our racist kicker, has he's on the practice squad. And I'm trying to think of our other rookie. It's just not, again, we don't see a lot of them. If I was going to talk about 2nd-year players, because that's really like our rookie class, Chase Winovich had a great start to the year. He's in Belichick's doghouse after an argument over a penalty, so he's not getting a lot of play time right now, so we'll have to see what happens with him. Damian Harris is obviously a beast when he's on the field. I mean, he's a running back who can take over a game and just plow through. Jacoby Myers, obviously 2nd-year player, UDFA. That guy to me is our true number 2, and if we can get a number 1 with him, he'd be a perfect guy for that team. And then I've been impressed with Isaiah Wynn, who technically it's his 3rd year, but he sat out his rookie year, so he does pretty well on that left side. And besides that, most of our rookies this year don't play a lot or suck. So that's a typical Patriots draft class, though we don't know until 2 or 3 years down the line what they're really going to look like.
When I was watching the game from a Jets perspective, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was 10 rookies that played yesterday overall. Becton was looking awesome. And then, like Green Bean said, as soon as he came out of the game, Edo goes in and Flacco's getting whacked from the side. I believe we had the holding penalty on that first play with him out there.
Yep.
So Becton, I think I'm worried about his health, like long-term health, not just, this particular potential injury. I'm hoping, did they release what it is yet? I know it was a chest injury. There was fear that it could be a torn pec, but I don't think that's actually been confirmed yet. So I'm hoping he's all right. Either way, we go into the bye. We give him a little bit of rest, give him a solid 2 weeks before we come out against the Chargers. Mims, like what I'm seeing out of him. I think he is a rock-solid player. He is going to be... I'm going to call him a number 2 right now, but I think he absolutely has the ceiling to be a number 1 receiver in this league. That's not going to stop me from going after Allen Robinson this offseason or, some of these other receivers that could potentially shake loose. But I really like Denzel Mims. I think he catches every ball away from his body. It's impressive. It's not like Stephen Hill where you used to see him try to catch it with his shoulder pads and like his chest plate. And, it's just... It's a breath of fresh air to actually see a receiver come in for this New York Jets team, especially because the last time we drafted a few of them, they were all like late round picks. They're just like scrap heap, that sort of thing. Ashton Davis, I really liked him flying around. He is fast as hell. He's got what, 4.3 speed or something like that. He is stupid fast. I definitely thought the shot on Cam, I shouldn't call it a dirty hit. I definitely felt like it was a penalty. I would throw the flag every time on that. He just had so much time, like Green Bean said, to aim at the correct spot. And maybe the face mask was in like the sternum, but like the helmet absolutely clocked the face mask of Cam Newton, and he's just got to clean that up a little bit. But overall, I was pretty happy with what I saw from him. I think it's going to be a little more of a growth process. I still hope we bring back Marcus May. I think McDougal's probably gone at the end of the season. Now,
I could interject on that penalty
Yeah,
as a
yeah.
Patriots fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
That wasn't. I know by rule that's a penalty. That wasn't a penalty in my eyes, and I said that to my wife right away. He hit a little high. It was the top of the helmet that grazed Newton. It wasn't even really solid contact to the chin. Sorry, my dog's going ballistic. It's yeah. I mean, that wasn't dirty whatsoever. I know a lot of Patriot fans were trying to say that he was headhunting. I'm like, he hit him in the chest, and it, like the top of his helmet grazed the helmet. So anyway, it wasn't a penalty in my eyes, or I know by rule it was, but I wish it's one the referees would have let him get away with, or maybe it's a good learning lesson for the kid.
Yeah. I don't think he was intentionally headhunting. That's one thing I can say. I wouldn't consider it really dirty, but definitely I think that the penalty made sense to me. In terms of Zuniga, I'll be honest, I didn't pay super close attention to him. I'm gonna have to go back and try to watch a little bit more of him. He's the edge rusher we picked up in the third round, this past year. Who else we have out there? We had Braden Mann looked fine. I didn't get to watch much of Hall. Greenby, what'd you think of Hall? Did you catch much of him out there?
Well, I thought Hall, I know he got called for that penalty. He did have a higher percentage of snaps than I thought he was going to have. But that penalty was kind of iffy. I mean, I think their feet got tangled up or something like that. He ended up giving up that reception, but he actually played well when he was out there. You didn't hear his name too much, which is one of the best things about, a defensive back we didn't hear Revis's name all game. Not that he's Revis, of course, but I think he did well for his first time out. And it was just nice to see him out there. I think that's the most important thing with Bryce Hall.
Yeah, overall, I'm very happy with what we got out of our rookies. I still want to see a little bit more of Bryce Huff. I think he's an exciting player off the edge for us. I think we're going to, over the course of these next two drafts, Joe Douglas is going to have so many high picks. You're just going to see an influx of talent on this team. That's going to be exciting to watch him grow. Like I said before, I really don't want to see a lot of Gore. I don't want to see a lot of Flacco. Sam apparently is okay. I saw a tweet come through. He's not going to need surgery. I didn't even know that was really being considered. He has the extra week to rest. How do we feel based on how Flacco performed and how Sam was not performing prior to this game? Sam's trade value. What are we kind of thinking it's going to look like? Before I go to the Jet guys, let's go to Ray first. What do you think about Sam Darnold, and what do you think he could potentially be worth on the trade market?
Well, you guys are stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Because you want Sam Darnold to play well to up his draft value, but you don't want him to play well enough to win you 4 games, and then suddenly you're out of the running for Trevor Lawrence, and now you got to go with Sam Darnold. Look, I've heard a second and a fourth right now is sort of the asking price, or that's the rumored asking price. Maybe. Ryan, when I was on your show last year, I'm not a big fan of Sam Darnold. I've never been a big fan of Sam Darnold. I really like Josh Allen over him when I was looking at those 2 quarterbacks in the division. So I'm probably going to undervalue him, to be honest with you. Like, to me, it's like a second and a fourth. It almost sounds high to me, but it's probably reasonable. You know what I mean? If he's going to a team who believes, we have a quarterback guru who can turn him into what everybody thought he was going to be.
Now, that's interesting. That makes me feel a little bit better, actually, about this whole situation, because I was like, we're getting a second-round pick. That's what we're getting. Maybe it's going to be worse. I think it's going to come in the form of, the Steelers or the 49ers or the New Orleans Saints, something like that. I still feel, I think a second-round pick is fair. I think I saw somewhere that Schefter thought a second and a fifth would get it done. Green Bean, what are your thoughts on Sam Darnold's trade value after what we saw with Joe Flacco last night?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's credence to the idea that the first game with our top 3 receivers on the field was last night. So and then we saw the impact of that. But I think Joe Flacco's ability to hit everybody. He got Ryan Griffin back in the game. He hit P. Ryan. He hit Perriman for 2 touchdowns. That laser touch pass to Crowder in the end zone. So that didn't help Sam Darnold's case, but it is the first time with the receivers. So I think it can go either way with that. I don't think Sam's going to do too much one way or the other to increase or decrease his value at this point. I think everybody kind of knows what he is and what his situation is. Maybe a little bit, but I think a second and a fifth would be fine. And I think that's probably somewhere in the neighborhood. Maybe like if somebody's like team 31, maybe you get a first out of it or something like that. But yeah, I don't think Flacco's game is really going to affect it too much because everybody knows what Sam is, I think.
And I mean,
Matt,
really,
what
you
about
guys
you?
got
Ooh,
the
yeah.
you guys got the Joe Flacco special last night, right? And I mean, it's Baltimore for a long time were our rivals, and when he drew, I think 2 pass interference calls, I'm like, nothing changes. I was like, nothing changes. Have Sam Darnold throw it as far down the field as he can to a fast receiver and draw a pass interference call because that was Sam Darnold or not Sam Joe Flacco's game for so long, right? And it was just a Joe Flacco special. He got the Patriots twice, and I predicted on my pregame he would get 2 PI penalties against the Patriots that night. It's which puts you in prime position to score, right? It's
Yeah, no, absolutely. A pass sorry. Oh man, a pass interference penalty is just as good as a reception of this equal distance. So, if you can get pass interference penalties, they should almost calculate that in a receiver's stat line. I'd like to see who's the best at doing that. I always thought Antonio Brown was really good at it. There's, Robbie Anderson was pretty good at it when he was here with us. Matt, what do you think about Sam's trade value right now?
Yeah, I still believe a second is about right for Sam Darnold. I think, like Green Bean was saying, I don't think he's going to really do too much to sway it higher or lower at this point. I was a little bit surprised when Schefter came out and said that he thought they would get multiple picks, like the second and a fifth. That'd be great. I would sign up for a second and a fifth. We say this every week. It sucks that we're talking about this at this point with Sam and where we were just a few months ago with this kid. But the way that the season's going, I think, especially if you're picking in the top 3, you got to take a quarterback. So, yeah, I think you're looking at probably, like Schefter said, a second and a fifth. And teams, like you mentioned, the 49ers definitely I see in the mix. Steelers, Colts, Panthers are a dark horse team for me because I think they're going to be too good to be in the mix for one of those top guys in the top 5. So I wouldn't be surprised if they, wanted to give some competition to Teddy Bridgewater and maybe get a long-term solution in there. So I have it at a second. I don't think it gets up to a first. And I don't think it's really dropping anything below.
I think for me, the glaring difference between Sam Darnold and Joe Flacco is Flacco's ability to just absolutely hit long balls on a dime. Sam, for whatever reason, over the course of the last few years, just hasn't really been able to connect with Robbie Anderson, hasn't really been able to connect with Perriman. Anytime he throws it deep downfield, it feels like he's throwing it over the heads of the receiver. So I'm like, all right, well, is it the receiver not getting open? I mean, a lot of times you see him running free. Perriman was running wild in the secondary last night, and I really enjoyed that. I would like to see him come back in some capacity, I think, assuming he wants to be back here. But that was the glaring difference for me. And I think that the offense opened up so much more with Joe Flacco behind center. And, maybe it's just getting all 3 wide receivers in there for the first time. Maybe that's what I'm seeing and just diagnosing it wrong. But I liked the arm strength from Flacco that we don't really get to see too often from Sam Darnold.
Can I ask you guys a question? Just because
yeah,
you
sure.
would have watched it. What is Flacco's? Because I was wondering last night what Flacco's look like with the Jets. Because I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched a lot of Jets games. No offense, but it's
none taken.
Because one of the things I talked about yesterday was I was worried about this game with Flacco playing, because Flacco has seen the Patriots defense a lot in the regular season and the playoffs. There's been a lot of battles between Flacco and the Patriots defense doesn't change. And one thing that we know that Joe Flacco has always been able to do, Belichick threw every piece of misdirection at him last night, and he didn't get fooled until the end of the game when Adrian Phillips came down on him, right? He says, crowd the box. I don't care. I know you're dropping 2 guys out. I don't know which 2 guys, but I know that I can get rid of the ball and do this. He just, him and Harbaugh had that figured out years ago. It's why Baltimore's always played the Patriots so hard. Do you think you'll see the same similarities from Flacco going against a team where he doesn't know a defense like he knows the Patriots defense? Like, and how has he looked prior to this game when he has come in?
So the Jets have looked inept pretty much all season. So this was a little bit more of a shock for I think me as well. I didn't expect to see this. Now I know he plays the Patriots really tough. I would say this was probably going to be his best game of the season. I think we'll probably see it come back a little bit more to the median, and I don't know if that has something to do with maybe the Patriots missing a lot of players right now, combined with the Jets getting healthy at the receiver position. I think this was a better Flacco than we'll probably get the rest of the season. Matt and Greenbean, what do you guys think about that?
Go ahead, Matt.
I definitely was stunned with how well Joe Flacco played last night. I think it's not so much Flacco as it was just the last 8 games just being completely inept on offense. This team doesn't score points ever. This was only the second time this year that they put up more than 20 points. So I think it was more so just the fact that they were scoring touchdowns. They had 3 touchdowns, which never happens for this team. So
how many touchdowns do we have on the season from this offense before last night? The answer's 4. 4
Exactly.
Right.
passing touchdowns, and we got 3 last night.
3, exactly. So I think it was just a shock to ask any Jets fans. I think they're going to say the same thing, that it was a big surprise.
Greenbean, what do you think?
I think you guys had more passing touchdowns than we did going into this game.
It was bad. It was. I saw the stat. It was. Yeah.
We got a
was
lot of
between the
running
two of them.
touchdowns, but not passing touchdowns.
Yeah, I know. I read that. That's pretty crazy to think about it. We have 4, and somehow we have more than you. But I think what we saw last night was the best of the Jets versus the worst of the Patriots, and we lost. So that's how it is. I honestly think putting Nick Folk in a situation to kick a 51-yarder was about as good as it was going to get for the Patriots to try to hand us that game. It was like, that was it, man. It seemed like the whole game, the Jets were able to do things that they haven't been able to do. Maybe it's because all 3 of our receivers were out there. Ryan Griffin was running around. Maybe that's what it was. I think there's more to it than that. But, yeah, man, it would be really hard for the Jets to play to that level again, and I don't think we're going to see too much of that this year.
Now we got Ray and Greenbean for about another 10 minutes or so. So I'll go through some comment questions that I've seen sort of pop up. Jim, I saw this question earlier, so I saved it. Did you see Steve Young advise Trevor Lawrence to stay at Clemson for his senior year to avoid the Jets? Ray, how are you feeling about the whole stay in school Trevor trend that we're seeing?
Look, as a pure AFC rivalry, I think it's hilarious. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm already sitting there going, there's Tua, there's Allen. I don't want to have to deal with Trevor Lawrence now as well, as we're, fumbling away with Cam Newton or Matt Ryan or something of that nature. But, or maybe we'll re-sign Tom Brady when he's 46. But I hate that. You know what? Steve Young needs to just shut up sometimes. Honestly, there's never a guy that annoys me more than Steve Young, and I know he's a great quarterback, but it's just like, dude, you can go if Trevor Lawrence were to go to New York, and you don't even have to just not win a Super Bowl, just compete, get to AFC Championship games, put the Jets in a position. He would own that city. He needs to understand, I'm from Toronto, which is the New York City of Canada, you know what I mean? And I've been to New York City, and I always tell people when I came back, you can't compare us to New York City because that is the greatest city in the world. And I mean that when I say it. Right, I love New York, not just New York City, just New York. And I stayed in the Meadowlands, so I've been in New Jersey. I've been all over. I love that place. That guy will own that city with his locks. He's good looking, and if he can make the Jets compete, I mean, he's like the next name, or he's the next Broadway Joe. He'll be Broadway Trevor. It's that's just my opinion. Steve Young can shut up. The endorsements that kid's gonna get. What's he want to do? End up in Jacksonville where no one's gonna want to endorse him? Come on. Everybody in New York, every
Right.
big money spender in New York is going to want to give that kid an endorsement. He's getting wrong advice right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And on the nickname front, before I get to Green Bean's comment, Vinny Man, I can't scroll back up to the comment for some reason, but he says, "Hey, on a scale from 1 to 10, how good is the nickname Tribeca Trevor?" By the way, Jets Talk, don't dare put that on a T-shirt without giving me credit. So, Tribeca Trevor, maybe he'll be coming here. Green Bean, what do you think about the Steve Young comments?
I like that. Tribeca Trevor, I'll say that's a 7. That's a pretty good. I haven't heard that one yet. So kudos to V Man. I think Ray's right, man. I mean, it's number one. What Steve Young is really saying is, hey kid, turn down $40 million guaranteed. Go back in school and risk your status again because I don't like the Jets. Like it's the stupidest thing in the world. Like we've talked about a million times. Like where's he going to go? The front end of the draft is a shitbag. It's the teams that can't win. That's who's up there. And when they get the quarterback, then they get out of there. Look at Peyton Manning. Before that, the Colts were hot garbage. Look at the Pats for decades before Bledsoe and then ultimately Tom Brady. And it goes on. Look at the Saints, man. They were called the Aints forever. Drew Brees goes down there, and look what happens. It happens all the time. And right now, it's happening with the Arizona Cardinals. 2 years ago, they were considered the worst piece of garbage in the NFL, and now look at them. Steve Keim is looked at as a great GM for what he pulled with the DeAndre Hopkins. 2 years ago, they were talking about he was an alcoholic who needs to get fired. They said he can't stop drinking. He's got an alcohol problem. So everything changes. Steve Young is an absolute moron who's trying to get clicks. And that's what he did because here we are. Well done, Steve Young.
Matt, how you feeling about these Steve Young comments?
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all because when you look at the alternatives, like, are we really to believe that going to Jacksonville is so much better or going to Washington? I know we're biased here because we're Jets fans, but I look at those situations, they're not great either. And I wasn't even thinking about the endorsements or anything like that. That's a great point. If you're in New York, the biggest market in the world, wouldn't you want to go there and turn that team around, be the guy who turns that team around? I feel like that holds a little bit more to the legacy than the Jacksonville Jaguars. No offense to anybody down in Jacksonville, but yeah.
I heard the best name for the Jacksonville Jaguars, by the way. I never knew this was a thing, and Green Bean, you may have seen it before because it was on the Jet Nation forums where I saw it. It's the Jacksonville Meth Kittens. It's like, oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Sorry, Matt, I interrupted you.
No, you're good. No, but anyway, everything that I've read up on and heard about Trevor Lawrence is this guy's like super competitive. He wants to be the guy. So I don't think he's going to want to back away from the challenge of turning around this Jets team. Like obviously any team who's picking that high in the draft is going to be bad for a reason. And if you can go like we've been saying to the biggest market in the world and turn around the franchise that's been beaten down for the last decade, then yeah, I think you take that 10 out of 10 times.
Listen, if I'm a professional athlete, I don't even care what sport you play. I want to go to New York, Boston, Chicago, LA, and I'm going to throw Toronto in there because up here we worship our sports stars and throw a lot of endorsements at them. You know what I mean? Like I don't know where else do you want to go, right? I mean, it's a business and it's a money business, and
Head and Shoulders is going to love Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. He's going to be the Polamalu of sponsors for Head and Shoulders. I 100% believe it.
That's good.
Dude, so I think the one spot that I could see Trevor Lawrence trying to maneuver his way into, not Jacksonville, not New York, whether it be Jets or Giants, it would be the Falcons would be the one team that I could see him wanting to go to. They have weapons. He's from Georgia, so that sort of makes sense, wanting to go home. That's the only area I could see him wanting to go. I think 100% he's coming out. There's no way he goes back to school and foregoes $30 million of career earnings. That's just an idiotic move. Ask Le'Veon Bell. I'm sure he regrets that, for sitting out. So he's coming out. The issue is going to be the Jets looking as attractive as possible for him to not pull that kind of Eli Manning thing. I don't necessarily think the Eli Manning thing's a common thing. It's just something we talk about to get clicks and all this other bullshit. But I think there could be a threat, especially if the Jets somehow decide not to get rid of Adam Gase. I know we saw some of the Schefter comments about Gase being gone. And I think all of us pretty much believe he's gone, but God forbid the dude stays. I think there's going to be a world of hurt. I think the Jets are going to have to make this team look as attractive as possible through free agency, through our head coaching, our offensive coordinator, our quarterback coaches, through everything we do prior to getting to the point where Trevor Lawrence is going to have to declare to really kind of hit it home and look attractive.
By the way, just for all you Jets fans out there, I am the guy on Twitter that's trying to get #extend Adam Gase trending. So if any of y'all want to support me,
you're a terrible person, Ray.
We can go. Look, I have to go, but can I hijack your show for 1 second and ask you guys one question?
100%, absolutely.
Which kick do you think will go down as the more important kick in Jets history? Nick Folk's 2011 playoff kick to knock out the Indianapolis Colts, where then you went on and beat the Patriots the next round. That's when I hated the Jets, really hated the Jets because I hated Rex Ryan.
Yeah, that was amazing.
10
season into 11, yeah.
Or Nick Folk's 51-yarder last night that kept you in the Trevor Lawrence hunt.
I as much as I want the Trevor Lawrence hunt, if the Jets get Trevor Lawrence, it'll be that kick. But right now, that kick that was made in the playoffs to get to the Patriot game where we beat the Patriots, that was my Super Bowl. That was the best game I have ever seen as a New York Jet fan. And I went to the Monday Night Miracle. I was there. I was sitting at that game. I saw like a lot of these comebacks, over the years. And that game just, it holds a special spot in my heart. I don't know how you guys feel, Matt and Greenbean.
Yeah, I got to say 2010. I understand the importance of getting a guy like Trevor Lawrence, but a playoff moment like that, and then to the next week go on the road and beat New England when they were heavily favored. I think you guys went 14-2 that year, if I'm not mistaken, right? Something like that.
That was the Wes Welker foot benching because he made
it was great
comments.
Welker puts foot in mouth, like, it was so. I love the headline after that.
Put the toe in the water, do this, do that.
Yeah. Oh God,
I would have to say.
Greenbean, what about you?
Yeah, I agree, and I liked what you said, Matt. In the end, or Ryan, in the end, if we get Trevor, then we can talk about it. But it's like it was good for right now. It was a very important Jets kick. Thank you once again, Nick Folk. But I agree with Matt. I don't think there's any real comparison to that type of a game and that type of a kick in the playoffs.
If you guys win the Super Bowl in a couple of years, we'll revisit this conversation.
Right on. There you go.
Ray, plug yourself before you go. Where can we find you?
Yeah, come check me out on sportscaster.com. To find me specifically, sportscaster.com/RayRoute, RayRauth. I'm on there 8 times a week. I have a Sportscaster featured podcast. You can also download my podcast on Spotify as well. It's called DPN Commentary. We do talk about the Patriots. We talk about a lot of NFL stuff. And we're just two guys that like to have fun. We probably talk more bad about Patriot fans than you guys do, so you might enjoy it a little bit. We're trying to become the most hated Patriot fans in the Pats Nation universe. We want every other fan base to like us. And then, follow me on Twitter at @DPN_Ray. Follow my can I plug my partner too, at Connor?
Yeah, absolutely.
At Connor Commentary. He's one of the funniest guys in the world. I met him on Twitter. That's how we became podcast partners, just because he made me laugh so much. We're a good time. And you can watch us troll our own fan base. We have a lot of fun doing it. Thanks for having me on.
Good stuff. Ray, thanks so much for being on. Greenbean, any last words for the panel?
Yeah, a couple things. One is no one buy Jets merch. We got to say this as much as we can. I know they're offering 65% off right now. Don't bite. They only feel it if we don't give them our money. Then they'll fire Adam Gase. The day Adam Gase is fired, I'll go buy a Jets shirt. Don't buy it, man. Don't buy Jet stuff. You can find me at Green Bean the Jets fan on Instagram, obviously Jet Nation on YouTube and the forums and all that sort of stuff. But we do a game watch party for every game on YouTube, Jet Nation. Come and hang out and have a good time with us.
So
Green Bean Ray, thank you so much for joining us on here. I'm sure I'll have you back on, Ray. I like having you on here.
Appreciate it. Just so you guys know, I'm sponsored by Fanatics, and I'm doing nothing but pushing Jets gear now too. Jets gear with the hashtag extend Adam Gase.
Yeah, see, don't buy that.
Ray, you're getting kicked
shit.
out. You're
Thanks,
getting
guys.
kicked
See
out
ya.
of here. Take it easy, brother.
All right, guys, I'll see you. Have a good night, everybody.
Take it easy. All right, let's see once Green Bean leaves. Ah, look at this panel. It winds up looking perfect. Looking perfect. All right, now I just got to get our comment questions back up there. Give me just a second, and we'll blow through some of these comment questions that you guys have out there. And of course, I have to crop it again. Come on.
It's all right.
Come
Doing it on the fly.
Oh yeah, this is all the editing work that gets done behind the scenes normally, that you guys get privileged to see. Guys, we got 293 people in this live stream right now. Let's get this like meter up to 150 likes if you want to see Adam Gase fired at the end of the season. If you are thankful for not Adam Gase, Nick Folk and everything that came with him last night, drop a like on the like button. Gizmo Snyder says, I hope you guys have been thanking the Patriots for keeping that #1 pick with the Jets. Yes, it's all I've been doing. I've been sleeping and just dreaming butterflies and rainbows and Trevor Lawrence skipping through a meadow, and that's all I want. I'm like sitting here, I'm watching this game, I'm like, we're going to blow it. We're going to blow it. We're going to blow it. And it finally, this was one of the better games that I've watched the Jets in quite some time. How'd you feel, Matt?
Yeah, no, totally. And honestly, like, one of my best friends is a Patriots fan, so I was texting him throughout the entire game, and he's the exact opposite of DPN. He does not like Cam Newton. He's kind of down in the dumps because he's used to Tom Brady winning a whole bunch. But he was like, I really think that the Jets are going to win this game. And at halftime, he's like, see, I told you, like, they're looking really good. I said, absolutely not. This team stinks in the second half. I said they'll probably have like 5 yards offense in the second half. Don't you worry. Now, granted, they made you sweat it out a little bit, but in the end, I said in the post-game video, man, you cannot out-tank Greg Williams, Dowell Loggins, and Adam Gase. Those are the three. It's like the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit of tanking, those three. So it's unbelievable how good they are at it. Like the 12 men on the field for a field goal attempt, wild.
Brilliant.
I've never seen like that.
Brilliant. They out-tanked the tank. It was like, okay, Cam Newton slips and falls. You know, it's going to be a sack. And I'm like, oh, God damn it. And then 12 men on the field, I was like, oh, no way. Yeah, we still wind up getting a field goal from it. But, hey, you know what? It made me feel a little bit better. And who knows, if they actually kicked the field goal when they should have, maybe there was a little extra time and the Jets could have had a chance to come back, and we don't want any part of that. Everything worked out exactly how it needed to last night.
No, exactly. And, like, if I was talking to my dad too after the game, and I said, like, if the Jets stumble into a win with Sam Darnold and Denzel Mims playing well and P. Ryan playing well and stuff like that, I'd be a little upset, but I could live with it. I could get some joy out of that. Winning on the back of Frank Gore and Joe Flacco would ruin me. That I can't go through that. That does nothing for the New York Jets.
100%. That was probably one of my biggest takeaways, was just, if we win with Flacco, if we win with Gore, these guys aren't going to be here next year. It's not a long-term thing. Winning with Sam, make me upset, but at least it maybe ups his trade value a little bit. He looks good. I don't want to, like, stumble into a win. I want that 0-16. Let's just make this happen. I don't know. This Jaguar team looks scary. Mumtaz, what's up, dude? He says, only games Jags could win are the Browns, Bears at home, and that is stretching it. What Ray just said about OSU quarterbacks, we better keep Sam in case Tank bombs. Well, we're not going to trade Sam until the draft. It won't happen before then. It'll be once we get Trevor Lawrence, he's committed to us, and then we send him off. The Justin Fields argument, I think, is going to be a scary one for a lot of Jet fans. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I'll be honest, I'm not there yet on him. I think there's a lot of people that are, and it's making me sort of change. I don't want to say change my tune, but I'm thinking of it a little differently. And looking at the Jaguar schedule, I agree. The Browns, the Bears are games that I could see them, having a shot in. Maybe the last Indianapolis game or something like that. We're going to need something to happen where maybe the Colts get into the playoffs and they're resting starters that final week of the season for the Jaguars to get that win. I'm concerned with the Jets and that Week 17 matchup with the Patriots. I'm a little concerned with the Chargers. I think the Chargers have a lot of firepower that could really beat up this Jets Jets defense, but it's still a rookie quarterback. And even the Miami game with Tua, I don't know. There's enough that I'm a little concerned. I don't quite see that with the Jaguars. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, so with Jacksonville, it's going to be tough for them to beat the Browns or the Bears. I really, there's a strong case that this team goes 1-15, and maybe like you said, they stumble into a win. Someone rests their starters in week 16 or 17, and you're good. But from the Jets' perspective, like they control their own destiny. We're talking about like them being a playoff team because that's like a playoff quote. But they really, I don't worry about the Chargers, and the reason for that is I know that they do everything in their power every week to blow these games, but the way that Herbert's been playing, I just think he's going to be able to torch the secondary. I don't think the secondary has much of a chance. The Dolphins, I really like how they've been playing. I know Tua's a rookie also, and maybe not to where Herbert is just yet, or even Burrow, but that's still a team that they beat us 24-0. So you gotta give them credit. I don't think it's fair to say, okay, you know, they're still not a great team. They're sitting in pretty good position right now. I think you're right with the Patriots in week 17 as the only one that's a maybe, but even at this point, my worry level is not very high for that game. It really isn't.
Yeah, I think we saw all the stars align for the Jets last night. I think it was the Jets just playing phenomenally well. I think it was the Patriots missing a ton of players. If they have Gilmore, I think that our secondary probably, or our wide receivers probably don't perform the way that they did. What do you think about Justin Fields in terms of the tank?
So I've come around on Justin Fields the last few weeks. For a while, I liked Trey Lance a little bit better, but I think that Fields has taken that second quarterback spot. I don't think he could do anything in my eyes to surpass Trevor. I have seen that in my comments and a lot on social media. I really don't buy into the narrative that you can't take a quarterback from insert school here. I don't think it's fair to the prospect. I think you have to look at each player as an individual and look at certain instances. I know, Dwayne Haskins obviously is the most recent quarterback to come out of Ohio State who isn't playing all that great. I think there's a reason why Trevor Lawrence is ahead of Justin Fields. I'll say that, but Justin Fields isn't a bad consolation prize if you're picking second.
Yeah, I think that's the whole reason why I'm trying to wrap my head around it, is because I'm scared of the Jaguars, and I want to at least be okay with quarterback 2 if that's what it has to be. I'm nervous with Fields. Again, I think I'll shake it over time. David, Scottish New York Jets fan, says, "Good morning from Scotland, guys. I can't believe we almost blew it by beating the Patriots. LOL." Yeah, we were all sweating bullets during that entire game. I have not been that happy to watch a Jets game in maybe the play with like Sam scrambling and like almost sliding against Denver and like running all that distance. I was like, oh wow, that was cool. But like aside from that, like this was a happy moment to be a Jets fan, I think, last night.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know about you, but it was almost like a sigh of relief when the Nick Folk goal went in. Before that, through most of the game, I've honestly, like, I was kind of numb. Like I've become numb to this team where it's very hard for me to get up and be excited about certain things. And yeah, like there are moments where it's like, oh, good. Like I could root for Denzel Mims getting a 20-yard reception and then a 17-yard reception after that. Like that's cool. But like in the grand scheme of things, do you want to march down the field and score a touchdown and potentially go up and ruin the tank? Like, I don't know. I was in a very weird position last night. I don't know how to feel. And I just want these next 7 games to be over so I don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat because I want to see like good football, but I know the best route for the Jets to go and the quickest route to success is getting the new head coach, getting the shiny new quarterback, surrounding him with weapons. And it's frustrating. It really is frustrating because it has been a long time. This season feels like it's taken forever, from like not having training camp and just like rolling into everything. I just want to see this over so we can finally root. Like, I want to have the energy. I completely know what you're saying. I want to have the energy to feel emotional about this team, whether it's good or bad. Like, right now, I am definitely numb to this. I'm not going to get myself overly worked up because I know what's going on. It's not, it's not like we're contending for a playoff spot or like if the Jets were, I don't know, 5-3 or something, and we lose that game the way we did, I'd be pissed. I'd be shouting. I'd be, cursing. But it is what it is for this season.
There was just one more thing on that, because this is a perfect example of why, like, in a normal instance, I would have been pissed, but in the moment, I was almost like laughing at like how ridiculous it was. Not like the 12 men on the field, but early in the game, the Jets were down 7-3, and it was 4th and 3 from the 41-yard line, and the Jets decided to punt instead of go for it. And in that moment, I was like, normally I would be so upset that they are playing give up football like this so early in a high percentage situation. And I was like, I don't care. Like, I don't feel anything. I should be mad right now. I should be yelling and screaming about how Adam Gase is a moron. But I was just sitting there like, I guess this is what we're doing. Okay. And I was just fine with it, I guess. Dude,
I was feeling the same way. I'm like, all right, this is where I want to see Frank Gore right up the middle. Just keep running him right up the gut. I was so concerned about that game last night because, was it the third quarter where there was only 2 possessions? It was like the Patriots drove down after they got the kickoff to start the second half, and it was like an 8-minute drive, and then the Jets came back with like a 7-minute drive, and that was over. I was like, no, it's not enough time for them to score, 17 points or whatever the hell they needed at that point. Let's see. John Perez, you guys like Tack from the Falcons, and you guys should do a mock draft simulator. We could definitely do a mock draft simulator. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm trying to look up Tack. He's a D-end.
Yeah, he was a first-round pick from 2017. Obviously disgruntled there in Atlanta. I would take a swing on him. I don't think he's going to cost a whole lot to bring in here, and edge is definitely a position of need. See what he has in the final 7 weeks. If he shows you something, great, keep him around. If not, okay. What is it's a no-lose situation. I'd be about it for sure.
Yeah. I think edge is going to be something that we're looking for sure. We need the edge presence. In terms of the mock draft simulator, I have been working on my mock off season. I have it all put together. I should post it somewhere so I could tell people to go see it. But I have like links and like highlight stuff and like everything, like pictures all going around. I used to do this every year for some of the football forums that I've been a part of, and it's just something fun. I select all the head coach, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and I just sort of like go through it the way I would go about an off season. So I'm going to be releasing that probably in the next by the bye week for sure. I mean, bye week's now, so next day I get a day off, I'll rattle that off. But I think maybe we should do a mock draft simulator on the stream. We'll throw it up on the side, and we'll just kind of like see who we would take in whatever situation sort of presents itself. I saw one in here. Where's Chris? Let me find it real quick. Chris says, we need to start Morgan. LOL, 1 win and no Trevor. Yeah, I'm like worried to see Sam like healthy because he might play well coming out of this 2-week hiatus. But we still have Adam Gase, and we still can't make second half adjustments. So I trust the Jets' lack of preparation and lack of execution more than I trust Sam with like the extra baggage on him from having Adam Gase and everything. Your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. I'm with you. While I understand that Sam Darnold is probably better at this point in his career than Joe Flacco and has a higher ceiling, so maybe he replicates games like that going forward with those 3 wide receivers. I'd be surprised, I would say, based on everything that we've seen, but I'm not really super worried about it. As for Morgan, I almost laugh because he can't even get it on the field. He's essentially the 4th quarterback on this roster. Mike White was healthy. I know they released him today, but if he can't even get on the field as a backup, like how far away is this guy? To me, I still can't get over that draft pick. To me, it was just a throwaway pick. I'm not a fan of taking a developmental player in that spot. The Jets don't have that luxury with the amount of needs they have. So that one still makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I didn't like the Morgan pick when it happened, and it's if he can't put it this way, we didn't get to give Sam a preseason. I think the rookie quarterback who's barely getting any snaps in regular practice with no preseason, he's not going to do any better. If we want to start Morgan just to like secure the tank and protect Sam, like I thought we should IR Sam, but it's going to wind up being Flacco in there, and I think Flacco may have a better shot of doing well with this team the way it's built and structured than maybe Sam Darnold would at this particular point. Mumtaz says Fields better than Sam. Sam is still 23. It's not so much that we think Fields is better than Sam. I think the issue with Sam is more so the amount of money and time that may have to go into it to kind of turn back some of the bad habits that he's picked up over the last 2 years. The Jets don't have the luxury of paying him as much as we're going to have to pay him and then allowing that time for a maturation process when you can go with a rookie quarterback and reset the whole clock, and now you're working with a fresh new lump of clay. So it's not so much that I don't like Sam. I think he still has high upside. It's just I don't believe that upside is going to be with the Jets.
Right, exactly. A lot of it has to do with the contract situation. You're basically starting that rookie deal from scratch. So you get a cheap deal for 4 years before he has to get paid. And at this point, with Darnold, you have to start making decisions here with the 5th-year option. And I know he hasn't played well enough to give him that 5th-year option, but still, it's going to be a little bit more pricey and definitely more risky if you go that route. Like, do I believe that he could get his career back on track? Absolutely. He's still, like you said, 23 years old in the comment, but I don't know how you could take that financial risk on betting on Sam Darnold when could be taking a quarterback prospect who's worthy of a top 2 pick.
Yeah, I completely agree. Not to mention the whole new head coach potentially coming in. You kind of want him to have his guy. Like, this will be the 3rd head coach that Sam Darnold's had in his career, and it doesn't feel like that's a winning formula in any stretch of the imagination. Jeremy says Keyshawn Johnson says build around Sam Darnold. Of course, because Keyshawn Johnson is from USC and he wants to protect his alma mater and show some support to his boy. But there's part of me that loves the idea of trading down and getting a ton of picks and surrounding Sam with all his talent and, really revamping the Jets. And if we're sitting here, 2nd year of Sam's contract, you could talk me into it. Like if the Giants got the first pick in the draft and they wanted to trade down because they wanted to keep Daniel Jones, you could talk me into that, and I think there's some validity to it. You're gonna love this stat. I heard this from a guy at work today. Let me just pull it up right quick. Daniel Jones is 4-0 against the Washington football team and 1-17 against everyone else. The one win was a missed field goal by Tampa Bay. So it makes me feel a little bit better as a Jet fan when you see like those kind of stats, or maybe not those kind of stats, but that kind of fact, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it's a full embodiment of Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones is going to be a pretty decent quarterback, but I don't know. I got a chuckle out of it.
Did you see the company he is in terms of quarterbacks in their 2nd year with turnovers?
I did not.
It's I forget what the number was, but the only other player who was in the same category with more than X number of turnovers was Jamarcus Russell.
No.
So it's Daniel Jones and Jamarcus Russell in their own category of turnovers.
Man, so what are the Giants picking now? I think they're 4th as it stands right now. I'm pretty sure it's Jets, Jaguars, Dallas, Giants. Could you imagine if the Jets traded Jamal to Dallas and the Jets are sitting there with pick 1 and 3 and you get Trevor Lawrence and friggin' Penei Sewell or whatever, or Jamar Chase? Like, oh man, that would be friggin' wild. Now I don't think anyone in their right mind thought Dallas would be as bad as they are, and I'm still taking the 2 first-round picks and the 3rd, because with Dallas you're probably only getting a 1st and maybe a 3rd or something like that. So I like what it wound up being for the Jets.
Absolutely.
Steven says, will Chris or JD talk to the media this week? That is a resounding no. Chris Johnson doesn't really talk to the media very frequently, and JD, Joe Douglas, only talks to the media at the beginning of the season, the trade deadline, and then at the end of the season once everything's done. So I don't think we'll hear anything from them until after they fire Adam Gase at the end of the season.
Absolutely.
Who we got? RJ McPot says, would you trade back if Trevor Lawrence stays in school? For me, probably not. I don't see Trevor Lawrence staying in school, first off. I think that's almost a moot point. But for the sake of conversation, if the Jets, so if let's say it's Justin Fields at 1, or trade down and keep Sam Darnold. I don't know what the package is of picks that you would get for Justin Fields. That's more my thing, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think you could trade down. To echo your point, I don't think we have to worry about this. I think Lawrence is definitely coming out. He's not going to pass up on that kind of money and opportunity. Plus, he's graduating in next December anyway, so it's not like, I don't know. He's not sticking around. Anyway. But let's play the game. I think you take Fields, or if you like Lance better, fine, take Trey Lance, sure. But I don't think you can mess around and trade back at that point. I really don't.
Yeah, I think you're playing with fire, and it's sort of the same thing where we're talking about the contract again, and Sam's contract being up and going into his 4th year. We have to decide on his 5th-year option and all the things that come with that. So I agree. I think you're probably taking the quarterback there rather than trading back. Ryan Thompson says, chances the Giants picking a quarterback in the draft? I don't see it. I think that team needs a lot of help, and the Giants, at least at this point, they're only 2 years into the Daniel Jones experiment. I think if they wound up picking maybe top 2, then maybe they consider it and they pull the trigger if they feel strongly about Justin Fields. I don't think they're going to have a shot at Trevor Lawrence. I think they stick with Daniel Jones, and if they stay at pick 4 or 3, somewhere in there, I think they're taking Sewell, the tackle from Oregon, I think.
If I were the Giants, I would take a quarterback, but I don't think the Giants are taking a quarterback. To me, Daniel Jones, what made me nervous about Daniel Jones coming out, yes, he had a really big arm. It was the turnover issues. And he's had a ton of turnover issues. Now, similar to Sam, it's not all on Daniel Jones, but if you were to ask me as a prospect, would I rather Justin Fields, Trey Lance, someone like that, or the prospect of Daniel Jones? I am probably going the opposite route and going with the rookie quarterback. Plus, on top of that, Giants are likely getting a new general manager after this year. Dave Gettleman's atrocious. And if you're a smart franchise, you cut bait with the general manager and the coach at the same time. Granted, maybe that's not super fair to Joe Judge, but sorry, that's for the business sometimes. And, it would be someone who wasn't tied to the coach, wasn't tied to the general manager. So a fresh start might be the best thing. Like I said, I would do it, but I don't think the Giants do. I think they stick with Daniel Jones.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because with Solder opting out and Thomas kind of getting thrown into left tackle a little bit prematurely, I think, than what fans probably wanted to see, I could see another year of them coming back just so they can see what's going on with Daniel Jones, with the head coach, and then if it doesn't kind of take next year, then sort of hitting the reset button and just going all in on whoever. Because at the worst case scenario, you're just adding more talent to whoever is going to be the quarterback in 2022. So I think they're probably rolling with Jones. I don't think they'll take the quarterback. It's Snoopy says Mel Kiper is calling Justin Fields Trevor 1A 1B. Is he saying Trevor is 1B? I don't think that's the case, but
I think he's saying that they are both like very, very close.
I don't see it. I think Clemson just, I guess both teams have a ton of talent, but I just love watching Trevor play. Like I don't get the same warm and fuzzies from Fields just because it feels like he's throwing to wide open guys what feels like all the time. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to Trevor Lawrence to put Justin Fields in the same category as him. I definitely see it as one, a step down, two, and then maybe like a baby step down after that for Trey Lance at three, and then the rest of the crop kind of below that. But yeah, to me, it's definitely Trevor far and away. I think he's definitely locked in for the first pick.
Blake Laughlin, sorry. How are your fantasy teams doing, Matt and Ryan? I have a few. There's a few that aren't doing so hot, but there's one that I kind of pay a little bit more attention to right now, and I'm doing all right. It's a 12-person league. I'm in 5th right now. I have the second, I did at least. I had the second most points in the league. Let me see. I'll pull it up real quick. I'll just kind of rattle off the players that I'm looking at on a week in, week out basis. I was able to sneak Antonio Brown in off the waiver wire hours before he signed with the Patriots, so I was pretty proud of myself for that. So I have Rodgers, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Devontae Adams, Jarvis Landry, Waller, the tight end from the Raiders, Antonio Brown. Then I got Bears defense, and then Robbie Gould is my kicker. And then on my bench, which not really my bench. Normally I have Calvin Ridley in, but he's out right now with the bye week. I got Ruggs, Laviska Shenault, Golden Tate, Kelly, the running back from the Chargers, Tanyan, the tight end from the Packers, and then I got Herbert as my backup quarterback. So I'm sitting pretty good right now.
Nice. Yeah, and I'm in 2. In one of them, I'm 5-4. Like kind of in the middle of the pack of a 12-team league. The other one, I'm in 2nd. I'm 7-2, and my lineup is Stafford is my quarterback. My running backs are Kamara and Gibson. I have Shark and Fuller starting at wide receiver this week. Mark Andrews as tight end. Chris Carson's in my flex spot. I have the Colts defense, and I have Badgley. Badgley, the kicker for the Chargers. I don't know how you say that.
That's all right.
On the bench, I have a lot of guys on the bye and just not playing well. I have Tyreek Hill on a bye, Adam Thielen on the bench because he hasn't been playing well, DeAndre Swift on the bench, Crowder and Mims I have on the bench, and Roethlisberger, who's out right now with COVID.
That's a solid team. I'd have to say you have a pretty decent shot of winning some money at the end of your league.
I hope so. I really do. I could use it. I've been struggling in the gambling world the last couple of weeks, so I could get some back. That'd be nice.
I should have, I could have taken the buyout last night. I had an $8 buyout on my $4 bet on the Jets winning, and I was like, no. I was like, if I pull the bet, that kick goes wide right. So I kept it the entire time. I lost $4 for Trevor Lawrence. 100%. 100%.
What a man.
Oh, dude, I do it all for the team. What else we got going on over here? Are the Jags the only one-win team left? Yes, Kenneth, they are. Let me just pull up Tankathon real quick. I'll rattle off the standings. So Jets, then Jacksonville with 1 win. Dallas and the Giants are both 2-7. Then you get a host of 2-6 teams: the Washington Football Team, the Chargers, and the Dolphins by way of Houston, which is scary. That's like a weird kind of conundrum that I think Jet fans had. I was rooting for Jacksonville to win this week against Houston, even though a Houston loss would mean the Dolphins could be getting like an elite blue chip player with that pick. So from here on out, I'm rooting for Jacksonville and Houston, but it's not as I think Houston fans were almost hoping to lose so that way Trevor Lawrence doesn't wind up in the AFC South.
Oh yeah, no, totally. They don't want that. They don't want any part of Trevor Lawrence in the AFC South for sure.
Let's see. So yeah, it's the Chargers, and then we have Cincinnati sitting at 2-5-1. That tie is going to pretty much knock them further down than any other team that could possibly be in that spot. And then you got a bunch of 3-win teams. You got Carolina, Atlanta, Detroit, Minnesota, the Patriots, and Denver. I really think it's a 2-horse race for this first overall pick. I think it's Jets and Jaguars. I don't think anyone else is I don't think either team is getting. I don't know. I guess if Jack's, I don't see the Jets getting 2 wins. Put it that way. I think we could win 1, but I don't think we're getting 2.
I'm with you. It's between the Jets and Jaguars. I don't think any other team is going to be competing for it.
Nick the Wick says, your opinion on the Giants' final record? ? My opinion on the Giants, and this is a very limited amount of me watching this, because when I watch the Jets, I'm fully watching the Jets, and then even if the Giants are on after them, I'm doing post game, I'm doing 5 takeaways, so I don't have as much knowledge as a Giants person would have on this particular subject. But I would say that the Giants are in need of a lot of talent. I think their offensive line is the biggest issue that I've seen. Solder opting out before the season did not help. I think it's a sort of a double-edged sword, because 1, you had to play Thomas earlier than you wanted to. 2, you probably were looking to move on from Solder at the end of this year anyway, but now his contract holds, so you can't move on from him until the end of next year. So the Giants are in an interesting spot. Evan Ingram is fascinating to me, because he looks like he should be a really good tight end and a weapon out of that tight end spot, but I have him on my fantasy team, and he just does nothing for me week in and week out. And that's, one of the dropping everything. He drops so many passes. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the Giants? Then we'll go into what we think their final record will be.
Yeah, they need a lot of help. They do. At least with them, they are competitive in their games. Like, they've been blowing leads. That's how they've been losing. And granted, that's still a sign of a bad team. I'm not making any excuses for them. They are really bad. I just think they're a little further ahead because they're at least competitive. Like you said, Ingram should be better than what he is. I like Slayton. I think he's a player at the wide receiver position. He's interesting to me. Golden Tate is essentially, our version of Frank Gore. Like, it's just wasting time. Getting the more you're getting Golden Tate to football. Defense has been better. I'll give them credit for that. The defense has stepped up. Even our old pal Leonard Williams is playing good football. He's going to get paid. I think maybe they get 1 or 2 more wins. 4-12 sounds about right to me.
That's exactly where I was going. I think 4-12, they'll wind up with like the 5th pick or so. I don't know how the tiebreakers ultimately shake down once they're all, kind of in there. But I think 4-12 sounds about right for me as well. John Nolte says, what position do you guys want the Jets to target with the second number 1 pick? I would say this. When you're looking at I don't know. So I want ETN. I like ETN a lot, but I don't really love the idea of going running back in the first round, because you get that 5th year option. And the 5th year option is just so valuable for a first round pick. And the 5th year option for a running back is just so high. You're not getting any benefit by having that sort of player there. For me, it kind of depends on how free agency goes, but I would be open to the idea of an edge rusher or a corner. I sort of have us going wide receiver in that spot. Even if we get Robinson and we have Mims and Crowder. Crowder's only got 1 more year left with us. Maybe right. Barrios takes over that spot. But I would be open to receiver, corner, edge rusher, I think, in the Seattle pick. What about you?
Yeah, those 3 positions I was going to say. I personally would like to see them go wide receiver. I mocked Rashad Bateman there. I hope he's still there when Seattle's pick comes up. I would take that in a second. But I think we're more likely to see Douglas go either edge or corner. Now, who that is, it all depends. So we got to watch how the board breaks and stuff like that. But if I were betting, it would be either corner or edge. Dark horse, interior offensive line, I think would be another spot that I could see him going with also.
Creed Humphrey, I think, is one that sticks out to a lot of Jet fans. He's the center. I would be okay with it just because McGovern can play guard. So if you slide McGovern over to guard, or maybe you play Humphrey at guard, and then I'm okay with that. I'm not opposed to offensive line in that spot. I mocked us Devonta Smith, the receiver from Alabama. So that was really, I would like to get just some weapons for Trevor or Fields or whoever the quarterback winds up being for next year. I think that's going to be an important spot. And then I guess if we have it our way with how the what we were kind of projecting for the second first round pick, the Jets more than likely are picking 33. What would you like to see the Jets do at that pick?
So a lot of people don't like my take on this one, but I had the Jets going running back, and I know that's very yeah. I
have
Najee.
the same thing.
I would love Travis Etienne. I don't think he's going to be there. I think someone takes him in the first round, so I had Najee Harris at the pick at 33, and the reason for that is I think he's a bell cow. He's someone you could feed the ball 20 plus times a game, and he'd be tremendous. He'd be like a mini version of Derrick Henry, and he can catch out of the backfield for someone with some really good size. It's an intriguing piece to me. I really want the Jets to focus offense heavy. They do have needs on the defensive side of the ball. Don't get it twisted. But to me, the offense has just been so bad for so long. I kind of want them to overcompensate and go offense heavy. So, yes, that's usually against what I like to do in drafts. But if you have 2 picks already and you go, like we said, quarterback and wide receiver, something like that, and then a running back on top of that, that's an interesting looking offense.
Now, I'll be honest, I actually did not watch your mock draft yet. I'll have to sit and do that. But it's interesting. We basically have the first 3 picks almost the same, just different players. Obviously, I would assume you probably took Lawrence at 1. And then you had Bateman. I had Devonta Smith. You don't think Etienne makes it there, but you have Najee Harris. I have Kenny Gainwell from Memphis. I really like him. He, to me, I know you want Arthur Smith, so that's why I think you're getting the Derrick Henry sort of thing there. So that sort of it lines up. For me, I love Kenny Gainwell. I think the guy just has a great head on his shoulders. I think he is just elite. He backed out of this season. He opted out because 4 of his family members died of COVID. So I just from watching his highlights a little bit and seeing him, he is like an Alvin Kamara. That is the elite type of speed and just amazing pass catcher out of the backfield. I think, like Joe Douglas has said, speed builds pressure, pressure bursts pipes, and that's just something that we're going to roll with going into this season, and that's where I would like to go with that second round pick. So I think running back it's going to be a huge need because Gore's not going to be here. Bell's gone. There's no way we roll with P. Ryan as our number 1 running back. Maybe we wait and go running back in, the 3rd or 4th round, which I guess you could do, and maybe there's value in that. But for me, I'm trying to get the top player at each position. If I'm sort of thinking of it that way. So quarterback, we're getting Trevor Lawrence. Wide receiver, if you're taking a wide receiver in the first round, you should be getting an elite number 1 receiver, regardless of where it is in the first round. Look at last year's draft. This year's draft is supposed to be just as good, if not better, for wide receivers than last year. And last year you had 5 receivers go in the first round: Ruggs, Lamb, Judy, Jefferson, Jalen
Reagor, and was Justin Jefferson in the first round also?
Yep, Jefferson was in the first round. I think that's 5. I don't know if there was another one later than that, but yeah. So I'm good with going the wide receiver at that second pick, and then running back in the first round. You might see 1, maybe 2 go. Najee Harris, I could definitely see there for the Jets picking at 33, and I think having that that first pick in the second round, it makes it so much more valuable because other teams are, they're not getting in front of you, and maybe they're thinking the same way. They don't want to jump up and get a running back. I mean, I guess you roll the dice on running backs, so kind of going late in the first round, but I think it's the perfect opportunity for the Jets to really get a home run threat. And then look at your offense. If you're going into next season with, forget free agency, you just have Mims, Crowder, new number 1 wide receiver, stud running back, new fresh shiny quarterback. I think tight end, we're probably rolling with Griffin, Herndon, and Wesco for a season. I like that. I think you could work with that. I love it. I'm big fan of that. What else we got over here? Bam. Okay, Mitt Flair. They should draft at least 1 O-lineman in a draft every year. Doesn't matter which pick it is. Mitt, I completely agree. I think you got to have a good pipeline of offensive linemen. I would say I would be okay with 2. I think if you take 1 around the 3rd or 4th round and then you take another developmental one in, the 6th or 7th, I'm okay with that. If I'm looking for an offensive lineman that I'm going to give away my whole mock draft, but you 261 people that are in here are you guys are lucky. You're gonna hear this. So I have the Jets trading Sam Darnold, getting a second round pick, and with that second round pick, I assume it's gonna be towards the end of the second round with the Saints or the Steelers. I have them taking Daniel Falele, the left or right tackle from Minnesota. This guy is 6'9", 400 pounds. Like he is an animal. Imagine having him and Becton on either side. Now he is a junior. He's only played football for 3 years. He's from Australia. He came over and they taught him like all the rules of football. They're like, okay, this is what a holding penalty is. This is what a first down means. This is, literally from scratch 3 years ago. He opted out this year due to COVID. He is eligible to come out as a junior, but I could see him going back to school, playing his senior season, because if he plays well at that sheer size, you could see him shoot up the board like Mekhi Becton. But if he comes out, that is absolutely a player I'm looking to target in that second round.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. I'm with you. I think they should take an interior offensive lineman. I'll say within the first 4 or 5 rounds, because you can get sometimes good value on interior offensive linemen in like the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. Depending on how the board breaks, like you might want to go skill position heavy earlier on, like we had in our mock. And I'd like to take another tackle prospect later, like as a developmental pick. Maybe get something there, maybe not, but I wouldn't mind taking like a 6th or a 7th round swing on a tackle too.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's we have a weird sort of stable of offensive linemen right now, and it may look different. George Fant is due, I believe it's like, I want to say we could save like $7 million if we cut him, or maybe it's $10 million. It's a pretty sizable amount. It's between 7 and 10 million. And he has this clause in his contract where if he's on the roster by like March 15th, 20th, something like that, it's $4 million guaranteed for that year. So if we don't cut him, immediately, he's going to be on this team for at least the season, I think. Edoga's an interesting piece because I thought he played all right in pass protection for the most part this season. Yesterday, I think he got exposed a little bit, but I don't know. I agree. I think you got to take some developmental offensive linemen late in the draft to really, who knows? Maybe you strike gold.
Absolutely.
Chris Bucco says, not that I want it, but feeling Ertz will be here next year. That's an interesting take. Let me just pull up Ertz's contract real quick. I did not realize he was a free agent.
Is he?
I don't know. That's what I'm about to find out. He's definitely not a free agent. So you know what? He's got a weird contract. Oh, he is gonna. 2020 is this year. So he's 30 right now. He's gonna be 31 next season. He's got a massive cap hit for the Eagles. So I could see them cutting him at the end of the season. It'll save him $4.7 million. Hey, you know what? If the Jets are having issues with tight end, Joe Douglas came from the Eagles. It makes sense. I can see it. I'm neither here nor there. I don't care. If it happens, it happens. It doesn't really matter to me one way or the other. How do you feel about Ertz?
I think I'd be surprised. I think they're going to roll with Chris Herndon for another year, and Griffin too, because they gave him a pretty hefty contract extension. And Herndon has one more year on his rookie deal. Now, I get it. He was really, really bad this year, has been really bad. But I think that he's someone who I could totally see like being freed post-Gase, because there is a lot of talent there. Like, this stuff doesn't make sense. Like all the fumbles and the drops, I feel like that's a mental thing that could be fixed. It's not like a talent issue. So I think that's where I'm holding out hope with Chris Herndon.
So I just pulled up Zach Ertz Pro Football Focus scores. And so since 2017, he has trended down. He was an 80.6 in 2017, 75.7, 72.7, and now he's a 59.6 Let me just jump into his game-by-game grades just to see exactly where he is. Yeah, he has not had a very good season. His pass blocking grades have been phenomenal all year. But if I'm bringing him in here, I want, pass catcher. I want a weapon.
Right.
So if he comes cheap, maybe you can get me to bite on it. But I agree with you. I think we got to roll with some of our guys that we already have on the roster. Who else we got going on? I got to cue these up before I I start talking.
Yeah.
Adam says there's so many other needs than running back. James Robinson might be the best rookie running back, and he was an undrafted free agent. Yeah. No, look, you're not wrong. But how many running backs hit undrafted free agent status, and how many actually turn into someone like James Robinson? I think that's what we're kind of looking at here. It's like the almost the argument with like quarterbacks, but to like more of an extreme. You could get Tom Brady in the 6th round. That doesn't happen often. There's going to be more running backs that happen in undrafted, free agents, I guess. But I would take more of a sure thing in the 2nd round than, you could always sign an undrafted free agent, and then there's really no downside.
Right, and then you could, but then sometimes like you find Trenton Ken, like it's not one way or the other. It's riskier, and again, I'm not saying like I want the Jets to prioritize their running back position in saying you pay a free agent $10+ million to come in here, or you take one in the 1st round in normal circumstances. This isn't normal circumstances. The Jets have a boatload of picks. They are most likely going to have 6 picks in the first 3 rounds. If that's the case, I think you can afford yourself one of those picks being a running back, and if it's in the 2nd round, then so be it.
Yeah, we're lining up perfectly there. Seamus says, "What about O-line guys from Notre Dame? They're some of the best in the country right now." Did you watch the Clemson Notre Dame game by chance?
I did. It was wild.
It was a wild game. That they have some hogs on that offensive line for Notre Dame. I would have to say I would love to get any of those guys. I honestly don't know any of their names. I haven't looked into where they should be ranked in the grand scheme of things, but based on what I watched and how they pushed Clemson around, because Clemson's D line is no joke.
Oh yeah,
I could get on board with that.
No, definitely. When you look at Notre Dame, it seems like they're always putting out quality at the offensive line position, whether it's tackle or on the interior. So, yeah, if you give me a swing on someone from Notre Dame, I'll take it.
All right, so I think Motivated T is trying to screw with my my mock draft a little bit more. Now, I will say this. He has Allen Robinson, the receiver, Joe Thuney, the guard, and Bud Dupree in free agency, the edge rusher from Pittsburgh. I was very close to having Dupree in my offseason. The only reason I did not have him is because I didn't think there was a likelihood that the Jets would get 3 big ticket items. Now, from like we heard from Ray, he thinks that Thuney may not be leaving New England. Then I would be on board for Robinson and Dupree. The one thing I'll say about Dupree is I'm a little concerned about how good that defense is and how much of it is him versus how much is the surrounding pieces plus him. I'm not upset with it. He's a younger guy. I would be on board with it, but you're talking probably $20 million a year for Dupree. What are your thoughts on Robinson, Thuney, and Dupree?
Yeah, I love Dupree. I think that'd be a home run pick. He has 6 sacks in 8 games so far, 11.5 sacks last year. Like you said, that does scare me a little bit. He's playing on the opposite side of TJ Watt, which helps, and they do have a lot of other really nice pieces there on that defense. So it's definitely intriguing. I would prioritize him. I don't think you're coming away with 3 big free agents. I think 1 or 2 is probably likely, and then a couple of like fill out the roster, like middle tier or lower tier free agents. Yes, I understand they have a ton of cap space, but it's not going to be like Mike McCagnon when he threw money at players in 2015. I don't think we're going to see very much of that. Now, maybe there's a 1 or 2 big signings, and then he surprises with, trading a 3rd round pick for a player that we're not expecting to get moved. Like that wouldn't surprise me. but I don't think we can go into free agency with the expectations of, oh, we're going to flip this roster. I think you're going to do that more so in the draft than in free agency.
I'll give you guys an edge rusher that I've been doing a little bit of research, and I've been flip-flopping back and forth. I would be willing to overpay this guy a little bit, way more than he's been paid so far in his career. He was an undrafted free agent, I believe. Originally started with the Giants. He is now with Detroit, and that's Romeo Okwara. It is Julian Okwara's brother. He was the Notre Dame pass rusher that we really wanted, or I really wanted last year in the draft, and I would be all about bringing in him this year. He's got a contract that voids at the end of this season, so he's not going to be able to get franchise tagged or anything. Not that you would necessarily franchise tag him. He's not that level of player. Let me just pull up his stats real quick. He is someone that, okay, so he's 25 years old right now. He last year had, hold on, where am I looking at this? Where's sacks? Okay, so in 2018 he had 7.5 sacks in the 14 games he started. He had 1.5 last year. Now remember, that is when Trey Flowers got to Detroit, so he's kind of sitting behind him there. And then 2020, this year, he's got 5 sacks through 8 games. He's considered the starter through 2 of them. So he's more of a potential upside kind of guy that I think Douglas could be looking for. I sort of projected him 3 years, $27 million, $9 million a year. I don't know if that's really it. The highest he's been paid prior to that, let me see. It's not a lot. He's definitely yeah. So this past year he had a cap hit of $4 million. So you're basically giving him more than double that to come here. I think there's going to be a shot he stays with Detroit and plays with his brother longer. Yeah. So maybe you have to overpay a little bit to get him here. That was just someone I was kind of keeping my eye on. Again, there's going to be a ton of players that get released from their teams just because of all the salary cap implications. The Steelers, the Saints, the there's a lot of teams that are going to be real pressed up against the cap that are going to have to release good players on possibly some bad contracts that the Jets could take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think while there are some big names who look like they're hitting free agency, I don't think we're anywhere close to the finished product.
Yeah, no, 100%. One person that is intriguing for me, and I don't know where the Saints stand on him, but I would definitely try to take Marshawn Lattimore from them if they're trying to hit the reset button. He's 24 years old this year. He's going into his 5th year option next year, so it's going to be a $10 million cap hit. It's fine with me. I'll give him a brand new contract. I don't care. He is really good. 6 feet tall, 193 pounds. He was the 11th overall pick in the 2017 draft. So Jets would be able to solve a cornerback slot that we haven't had in so long. I don't know what it would take to get him here. Maybe swinging Sam Darnold to the Saints. You get $1 million worth of Sam Darnold, and they save $10 million worth of salary cap space.
That's
probably
interesting.
Not, but
no, that's interesting though. I never thought of anything like that. But a player swap, okay, I like that.
I would almost be more on board with a player swap for Sam, just because of the certainty, or maybe more certainty than you would with a draft pick. And I'm okay with a draft pick too, because you're getting a guy for another 4 years on the cheap. So we're not keeping Sam Darnold, so it's neither here nor there. But that's a player on a team with a lot of salary cap issues at a premier position that the Jets need. I would be willing to spice it up a little bit more, because he's a good player. Mumtaz coming in again saying, what happened to Yannick Ngakoue? He sucks. Aren't we glad we didn't give up a first round pick for him? Also, we can improve both guards and right tackle. O-line priority at number 1. let me get your thoughts on Ngakoue while I try to pull up his PFF grades for the season.
He has 5 sacks in 8 games, so I don't know how much he sucks. I don't believe that Yannick Ngakoue sucks. I wouldn't have given up a first round for him, but if you could tell me that I can get him for a second, yeah, I think that's kind of the route we were on, a second round pick, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I don't think he sucks. I think he would be a big help to this Jets team.
So this year through, what is it? So 6 weeks with Minnesota and 2 weeks with Baltimore. Pro Football Focus grades. This is overall. I'm not going into just his pass rushing grades. His pass rushing grades have actually been all right. But 42.5, 82.2, 62.8, 58.1, 56.2, 68.4 with Minnesota. And then really has not performed well the last 2 weeks with Baltimore. At least from Pro Football Focus's grading metrics. I like Yannick Ngakoue. We needed an edge rusher. Second round pick would have been the spot for me, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't have given up a first for him, but I would have been. I'm still okay with that for sure.
So he said, what else does Mumtaz say? Sorry. Aren't we glad we didn't give up a first for him? Also, we can improve both guards and right tackle O-line priority. Yeah, both guards are going to be a focal point, I think. I'm good with Lewis coming back. I'd like him to be more of a backup role. I don't necessarily want him starting all year. Oh, geez. Man, I'm sorry. I would say if you can get Tooney, that's the immediate upgrade that I want. Then if you decide you want to go center like Creed Humphrey in the first round, then you kick McGovern out or you start Humphrey at guard, and then you sort of figure out right tackle, whether it be another draft pick or maybe it's Edoga or Fant or someone of that caliber. What do you think about the O-line?
Yeah, so I think that Becton's a lock on the left side. I think they're going to bring Fant back next year. And I understand they could save if they don't, but they do have a ton of cap room to begin with, so I don't really look at that as a huge issue. I think he's been fine on the right side. So I think those stay. McGovern will either play center or guard. And then I think you could do one of two things. I think you pull in someone in free agency and then either draft somebody or have Cameron Clark start. I really wouldn't be surprised if Cameron Clark is in a starting role next year, along with either another rookie on the other side or a veteran.
I want to see Cameron Clark get on the field. I don't think he's played yet, has he?
No, he hasn't. He's been inactive.
All right. Ben Collins says, what position would you not touch with our first 3 picks?
What position would I not touch? Interior
punter, kicker, long snapper.
Yeah, true. Interior defensive line is a no-go. Safety is a no-go for me. I'm
gonna say linebacker. I don't want a linebacker in the first 3 picks.
Yeah, no, not an inside linebacker. Agree. That's inside linebacker is sneaky a position of need on this team, but I don't want to spend a high-end pick on an inside linebacker. I just don't think that makes sense.
Yeah, for me, linebacker is one of those weird positions that you can get in like the 4th and 5th round. It's like linebackers and guards are kind of the same. You can sort of find some value in those mid-round picks. So that's where I would go with that. I agree completely on those 3. So we could probably move on from there. But I would say if I had to throw in one extra one, maybe I'm going to say tight end. I don't really want a tight end in the first 3 picks. If I had to pick an offensive position, I guess. Again, it's not a be-all, end-all, I think, but it's just something I don't particularly want to see. Big Green.
Ooh.
Did you see, or do you see, the Jets trading low draft picks to teams over the cap for good players on bad deals? That is what I've been preaching all season long. So, yes, I do. I hope so. I don't know who those players are going to be.
I'm with you on that, though. I definitely see them getting in the mix for, because they have a million of these draft picks. So maybe he's like, hey, will you take a 2022 6th-round pick for, insert player here who's pretty good, but just has a $15 million cap hit or whatever.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about when you trade for a player too. It creates a ton of cap space on their team, like if they were just cut. But the contract that you're taking on is not as bad as the contract that it was on that team. Let's go to an example of this. I don't know. Let's pick a player on a wonky deal. Let's say, God, I'm like on the spot right now. I don't know.
Someone from the Saints, because they're just so much over the cap.
Yeah, let's go with the Saints here. So, try to blow through a few of these. Maybe not a great. Oh, you know what? I gotta hit calculator. That's why. Stupid. Okay. So, Janoris Jenkins. Let's say, as an argument. Actually, no. You know what? Ryan Ramczyk, the right tackle. That would be a hell of a trade.
Smart.
He's someone I'd want. So let's take a look at his contract. Right now, got another bad one. He's going into his 5th-year option. So not a great example here, but you don't pay any of the signing bonus. So if someone gets a $10 million signing bonus from a team, let's say it's a 5-year deal, that's $2 million attributed to each year of their contract for the signing bonus. So when you trade for a player, if their cap hit, was $13 million, but they had $2 million attributed to each season, that contract is now $11 million. So it's cheaper if you trade for a player on a deal than maybe even signing, because maybe if you sign that player, you're getting them for maybe $13 million. So there's going to be some players like that. Again, I don't exactly know where to look. It's such a weird year for players. Pittsburgh is going to be one that I think has some options for us. Guys that they could be. There's a lot of players that they can cut. Joe Hayden. God. Marquise Pouncey. DeCastro. Like there's a lot of guys that have big cap savings. So like let's pull up DeCastro. He's guard. So get this. His cap hit next year in 2021 for the Steelers is $14 million.
Yeah,
it would be a 1-year deal. If he goes to the Jets via trade, we would only pay him 1 year, $8.7 million, because $5 million is attributed to his signing bonus, which is already paid out by the Steelers. So that is a really good option for the Jets to potentially go out and get a good, solid player, on a bad contract for his current team.
Right. Like, I think instead of cutting him, wouldn't you rather take a 6th-round pick or something like that instead?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, if the option was cut him, I mean, they could always restructure him and then maybe they work out some cap space that way. But I think if the thought is to cut him, you're going to take the 2022 6th-round pick. I'm curious to see where it comes in. If it comes in with this draft, before the draft, or if it's before training camp, before they would get let go. I don't know. It's a little weird, but I don't know. I think it's going to be something that the Jets should look into, and I think we have the cap space, and I think we have the late round picks to be able to take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything else. All right. So we have reached the final few minutes of our show, so I will get the exit music going. Matt, any last words for the panel tonight and the passengers?
Yes. So I have a new podcast coming out tomorrow. It's going to be reaction to the game from Monday night. We're going to answer voicemails. It's Jets therapy, just like this on this channel. We have some Jets therapy over there. We talk it out, and it's a good time. So if you check that out, Just Jets, wherever it is you get your podcasts, or on the YouTube channel, Matt O'Leary NY, really appreciate it. And just excited to talk some Jets and get all this stuff off my chest. No one understands, man. I can't talk about the Jets like this to anybody else.
No, no one can wear this amount of pain week in and week out like Jet fans can. And you know what? It just is what it is. We're a special breed over here. We really are. And I had something I wanted to say and I don't remember what it is. Oh, it's gone. Fleeting moment. Oh, All right, guys. Thank you, Ray and Greenbean, for being here earlier. Matt, thank you again for being on. If you have not subbed up to any of those guys, all their links are in the description down below. I remember what I was going to say.
Hit it.
Guys, this is going to be the 1 week we don't lose. The 1 week we don't lose. We're coming in on the bye week, baby. All right. Guys, it's been real fun. My name's Ryan. I was your pilot. I will see you guys next week. JETS.